Hey everybody, Gregory. As we kick this one off, I just wanted to say that we had sort of our first big video audio issues on this episode. So I want to apologize to you, the viewer. The audio is fine. It's just the video itself. My computer crashed and the video stopped recording, and we didn't notice it until it was sort of started editing, and it just would have taken too much to piece all together to make the video look good with the audio. So the entirety of this conversation with Fezzington about his visit to Hillcrest is going to be audio only, despite this being a video format. So I apologize for that, but please do continue watching/listening to this episode. Fez brings a lot of perspective and a lot of color to us meeting him there alongside other members who showed up in Kansas City a couple of weeks ago. So it's a fabulous conversation. You're just going to be able to close your eyes and listen to it rather than watching it as usual. So very much hope you do enjoy it, and we will rectify this in the future. We won't have these video issues again. Thanks a lot. Welcome back to the Links Golf Club podcast, everyone. A conversation and today first impression from Hillcrest show about our wonderful club and the world of golf. I'm Gregory, joined as always by Cooper and Chris. But today, direct from Orlando, Florida, overlooking a golf course that he wants to play, we have a special guest, the one and only LinksDAO member, Fezzington, joining me today. Guys, how are we feeling?
Good. Happy to be here.
Good. We're single-digit days out from the Masters. Getting pumped. Things are looking up.
Can't wait for the start of golf season.
We're so close, especially coming from a cold climate. It's got to be a lot harder. Like, you probably even haven't made it on a golf course in a couple of weeks, right?
We had some warm weather a couple weeks ago. I got out, played a couple rounds, shot mediocre, but it was nice to get out and walk, of course, and not hitting the screen.
For sure. We're close enough. We're feeling good. We're through kind of March Madness now. Got the Final Four coming up, the Masters coming up, baseball's in full swing, it's just a good time to be alive, guys. So before we dig in, Cooper, Chris, anything that you want to plug? Any announcements for that members need to know about?
Aside from torpedo bats coming to golf, the first signature events of 2025 are going on sale on Tuesday, April 8th. That's for the Olympia Fields in Fezzington's neck of the woods event, which should be an awesome 36-hole outing, as well as the Bayonne event right in the middle of NFT NYC. So those are going to be two really, really great events. This will be April 8th at noon for global members, and you'll get an email with the rollout. Again, if you haven't gotten the Mulligan emails, make sure to go to Clubhouse, link your email, get all the updates and info in the weekly digest. We're staying up to date, so you don't have to. Got some fun stuff happening with Links Coin. You can post your Links League scores as soon as it's warm enough to get out there and play. That's open through mid-May as well, so you have plenty of time to get those rounds in.
And then from my end, we're now officially kind of done with quote-unquote phase one for Hillcrest memberships of the kind of early bird perks that we had available for folks that were joining right out of the bat. So that closed at the end of March, but memberships are still available. So for anyone still interested, obviously we're going to be talking about Hillcrest a bit today, and everything that's going on there, and Fezzington's impressions of the site and everything going on there. But those are still available. If you want to get more information, go to Clubhouse, click the Hillcrest page. We've got a ton of info there on the history, the renovation plan, all the membership tiers and details and everything else. So definitely hit that up, or you can always reach out in the Discord.
All right, let's dive in. A couple weeks ago, we made a trip out to Hillcrest Country Club in Kansas City to see it in its raw pre-renovation state. No grass yet, no clubhouse, just land, vision, whole lot of potential. Fezzington was one of the 5 LinksDAO members who met us there, and today we're going to walk through that trip from his perspective, sort of his travel in, the barbecue, maybe some bean conversation, first look at the property, and what he's most excited about as the course comes to life. So Fez, just sort of start from the top. You live in the Chicagoland area. Everyone else who was there was from Kansas City. They drove over. You took a little bit longer of a trip in. A couple weeks before that, we asked, did anyone want to meet us there? We were sort of expecting Kansas City locals. you kind of were one of the first people who just like jumped in, said, "I'd love to make the trip." What made you decide to go out there?
I think the biggest thing is for anyone except for the the Kansas City locals, but for everyone else in Links, this is a national membership, you know. It's to me one of the things you got to look at is how easy it is to get to the golf course. So when the invitation popped up, and I was like, you know what? Yeah, I'm fortunate enough to be able to get down there. I got the time off, and why not go and like pretend that I'm going down there to spend a buddy's weekend or a day trip and just see what the travel experience is like for myself, and happy to report back to the community what I found and talk through that sort of stuff as well.
I love to think that you were like cleaning your clubs the night before, getting your travel bag ready, just going through all the steps. It's like a simulation. So what was that trip like? You wake up that morning in Chicago, a couple hours later, you're in Kansas City. Kind of walk us through what that was like.
Yeah, so jumped on the blue line in Chicago, take me right to O'Hare, get on, take the plane ride. I think the blue line was running a little slow that day, so the plane ride was almost about as long as the blue line ride was. It's such a quick flight, and then leaving O'Hare, it's such a long taxi, so it was really three parts. One was the blue line, one was waiting to leave O'Hare once everybody's on the plane, and then actually being in the air. It was less than an hour of flight time. So landing Kansas City, uh, which if you've not been to Kansas City in the last few years, they have a brand new airport. It is beautiful there. It is probably one of my top five favorite airports in the country right now, which is domestically. Internationally, a whole nother story. But domestically,
It's so different than the old one. It's hard to impress on people how much of a shock it is to arrive at the new airport when the last time you were in Kansas City was the old one. It's night and day.
That's coming from someone who's seen a lot of airports too, so that's pretty high praise.
yeah. I will challenge anyone else in LinksDAO to see if they've been to more airports than I have. I think I've got that crown. Um, it's a really really nice airport. Everything's just super wide. There's no like congestion zones. There's no LaGuardia that you're like feeling like a hobbit. It just is a really nice airport, and the setup they've got too when you leave the airport is so great. There's other places where you got to go super far. If you're checking clubs, oversized bag check is down in like the dungeon corner of the baggage claim area. Not like that at Kansas City. It's right there next to the other bag check. The rental car, I didn't rent a car, I took an Uber, but the rental car shuttle's right there. The Uber pickup is right there. It's not like Vegas where you're going across into a parking garage and something gets you there. So it really is an impressive layout for the airport, which I wasn't expecting because I haven't been in a while. So I still remembered the old terminal, which was not nearly as nice.
So you hopped in the Uber. What were your expectations? I think we had stopped by the course in the morning, gotten some early shots, and then we met up. What were you looking forward to? Were you hungry for lunch? How was LC's? Then getting to the course, walk us through that.
Yeah, Elsie's was phenomenal. For those that don't know, Elsie's is a barbecue place that's really, really good, and it's just up the street from Hillcrest. So that's where I met everybody. Had some phenomenal beans, A plus beans, just no notes. Um, uh, and then we went over to the course. What I was really expecting to see was a Midwest course. We called it Midwest course for so long, and I was expecting like we see in Chicago, some elevation, but on our drive up, we got a little turned around. There's another couple golf courses in the area. Um, but as we drove up the hill, I'm looking around. I'm like, I didn't realize Kansas City had so much topography. And it was an experience getting lost. And I can't blame anyone except for the two of us in the car. We both definitely missed a turn. But we finally make it to Hillcrest, and yeah, I mean it's clearly a construction site, but it is a special piece of land that I wasn't expecting necessarily because I'd seen the pictures that you guys had posted that morning. Pictures really don't do it justice in the sense of the topography, just the sense of scale of things once you're standing there on property where the clubhouse is going to be and kind of looking down to what will be the new front nine, and then looking over to the other side to the new back, it's just a really impressive piece of property.
Yeah, walk us through that, because it is completely hard to capture kind of fully in photos or on video, um, versus being there on site and walking around. But kind of the first thing we did was, just start walking around on the course. So walk us through that, kind of what we saw, and again, kind of what your observations were of the land, or kind of how it matched up to your expectations.
Once I realized that my expectations were just completely blown out of the water, I was really just looking around. It was a windy day. It's early. It was early March, I think, or mid-March in Kansas City. So the windy day. Um, so playing golf in those conditions would have been tough, but doable. Um, but otherwise, just walking around and just seeing, you can see the skyline in the distance. You're relatively close. You're still within Kansas City proper, but you almost don't feel that way when you're on the course. There's so much tree cover around the kind of edges of the property that you kind of forget that you're in a decently sized metro area. So it's really quiet, and that's another thing I love. We all play golf for various reasons, but I think all of us, to some extent, enjoy getting away from everything else in life to go play golf, and seeing that, and just like, absolutely, if you didn't have your phone with you, you could absolutely be disconnected from the world, while also being, a hop, skip, and a jump from a pretty decently sized metro area.
Yeah, I think that's one of the interesting things definitely about the property, because what you described is like getting away. So much about the last 20 years of golf course development is about finding very remote sites that take a long time to get to, and either those are public like Bandon, or you're joining, a private national membership that's like 2 hours away from an airport, let alone an airport as fine as Kansas City's, of course. But that definitely, like, to echo, like, is one of the things that stood out to me too. Like, just you feel remote, but you're still like, we're gonna go to a steakhouse that night, and we're gonna be, taking a shower in the clubhouse, and you're, at the steakhouse 30 minutes later, sitting and eating some bread service. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, and I think you could even do, not that most people would, but you could very realistically would do a day trip out of Chicago and end up just go down, play around, come back up all in the same day, because it is that accessible.
Yeah, because you slept in your bed that night, right? Like
Yeah.
you got back home. Yeah, so it certainly, it's an option probably for like the true golf sickos like yourself. But yeah, it's totally doable for sure.
Yeah. It's funny, on the flight attendants' phones, they all have, they can see kind of what your connecting flight is. My two flights were close enough together that I had a connecting flight back to Chicago. So they thought I was just, they're going to Kansas City for I don't know what, but they're like, why are you then turning around and going back?
That was one of the things that stood out, even when we were looking at it, right? And we went and visited the course for the first time, even from New York, which is a further flight away from Chicago. It's like we took the first flight out in the morning, like ended up walking around the course for hours and hours, going having lunch, meeting with the guys and everything, and then flying back that night. And you could totally do that for a day trip for golf. Not that when I go there, I'm going to want to stay for longer, I think, but it is certainly feasible even from either coast, which is actually kind of wild to think about. Um, but pretty cool that it gives that kind of optionality, and especially from like, Chicago or Dallas or Houston, or somewhere a little closer. So getting back to the course, so like we walked, if I remember right, kind of the first thing we did was walked down kind of 1 and 18. That's along the ridge, kind of in the middle of the property, as the great views of Kansas City and everything else. And we got to kind of that central part of the course, the kind of 18th tee ish area where you can kind of see all over. But give us your sense of kind of, again, the layout and the land, and just kind of what you saw, because we didn't walk like every single hole of the course, right? But you could kind of see everything. So give us your reflections on that.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I did notice, as we're walking down, there's significant trees that had been removed, and kind of the logs were sitting there. So it was nice to see that somebody who often finds himself in the woods, there wasn't a whole lot of trees. didn't really have that problem, or won't really have that problem, I should say. Um, 18 is, you just said it, it's a ridge. That 18 and 1, it really is just a drop off on either area. So they almost feel like two completely separate nines from what we saw in that central area with the, it was a weird looking tree.
The bonsai tree. Yeah.
The bonsai, yeah. Bonsai tree merch sometime, maybe.
Flying bonsai tree. Merch.
Yeah, yeah. But it was, it looks like it's going to be a routing that if you want to really challenge yourself, it's going to be available for you. But it also looks like if you're playing from some of the maybe forward tees, that it's fair, right? I didn't see anything that looked like a ridiculous carry over water. There wasn't anything that's going to end up on the Terrible Golf Holes podcast that's on social media. There's nothing of that, right? The green complexes, honestly, for the fact that that place hasn't been maintained for so long, they're still very much green complexes, and you could see that the difference in between the two grass types there, and it looks like it's going to be a really fun course to play. Excited to see what happens and to kind of watch that grow from the basically construction site that it is today.
One bit of alpha for you: the construction is actually starting this morning. Kind of the actual moving of dirt and kind of larger scale things beyond tree removal. So it's happening right now. It's pretty cool.
I'm gonna go jump on a plane. I'm gonna go watch them.
You could probably like practically stay on this call and just take us through the entire live stream of getting there. You'll be
Yeah.
there in like 2 hours. That's great. Cool. Well, what are you sort of looking forward to, right? So, we're kind of ourselves, we're going out there, let's say every couple of months, and we're doing these like kind of temperature checks of, all right, here's where it is right now. Obviously, it's going to look very different in 2 to 3 months. Obviously, there's a timeline that gets us towards opening the entire thing in spring of 2026. What are some of the things you're most excited about? It could be the property. It could be, looking forward to trips with your friends out there. Just sort of what are the things that get you fired up about what's going to happen next?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, the big one is having, we have Spay Bay, but having a course that's much easier for everybody, or for most of us, I should say, to get to is, it's sweet. And it's going to be such a nice course. I'm excited to see, quite how nice it gets. I think the ceiling is very high. So excited to see what happens there. Curious about what sort of access that'll bring both to initiated members and even potentially to LinksDAO members who aren't necessarily initiating at Hillcrest. That'll be nice to see because it's such a nice piece of property. I imagine it'll open some doors. Not being a golf pro myself, but nicer properties tend to prefer nicer properties in a sort of reciprocal agreement. So, so excited to see that, and honestly, my two buddies who just joined Links, I'm trying to convince them that this is a good idea. Let's all just go in. Everybody gets a national membership, and we'll just start doing golf trips with the boys over to Kansas City, and that will be that'll be a lot of fun. Just having that option there, that's relatively close, relatively easy to get to, but also far enough away from our daily lives that we can really enjoy getting away.
Yeah, I am certainly looking forward to that same scenario starting next year. This wasn't part of your experience, Fez, but it's probably worth noting, just like we're the rest of us, the three of us that were there overnight. We were staying at the Cascade Hotel, which is kind of a partner property for all of the folks that are members and are coming in. They'll be able to stay there with preferred rates. It's like 10 minutes from the course, right in the Country Club Plaza area. But very nice hotel, and that we got like a little preview, Coop and Greg, of like what the what the buddy strip might look like, right? All staying in the hotel and traveling over. And then so that was kind of cool to see, and we'll be much better when we're bringing clubs and playing a full round at Hillcrest next year. But that was fun. And then there are some plans in the works for lodging on site at Hillcrest, which will definitely take it to the next level. It's not going to be open next spring, but very exciting to think about kind of the full on buddy strips that can happen there in the future.
Yeah, I mean, once the lodging on site opens up, just going down, because I think if I remember, you pointed out the area. It's really close to the driving range, so I'd imagine, after your round, you can go, unwind a little bit and then just go hit balls at sunset. I feel like that'll be a special place as well.
Question for you, Fez. Like, what are your favorite kind of golf events? Have you been to any other Links events? What events would you like to see at Hillcrest? Like big blowout, crowded things, or are you more like I'm gonna take 3 friends on an off weekend and have kind of more of a laid back experience? Like, what's your preferred vibe for that?
I would love to see more match play. I think we don't get enough match play events in the States. So I would love to see, any sort of match play, be it Ryder Cup style, which we've got at Spay Bay, but bringing that to the U.S. To host and hopefully win. Sorry, Europe. Uh, but I'd also just like to see, almost like the mid-am type of match play, just heads up match play for a weekend. That would be a lot of fun. I like buddies trips. I enjoy that with my friends, but I'm also not opposed to just going there and meeting up with LinksDAO members who aren't necessarily part of my normal foursome. So that kind of commonality. I had been previously. I think the only other Links event I've been to was the 5 iron event in Chicago, um, which unfortunately the weather wasn't great, so a lot of people didn't make it out. We got absolutely dumped on, and I'm blaming Gregory for bringing the poor weather with him and no jacket. But that was a lot of fun just to meet, put a face to the screen name or to the avatar or profile pic, whatever everyone's got. But that was fun. I'd love to see that, on green grass, in sort of a bigger scale of having a home base here in the U.S.
Yeah, to that end, we actually had two Spebe Scottish members who were traveling through the United States. They like basically were going Florida up to Tennessee, down, and then all the way out west. So they met me and another LinksDAO member at his course here in Nashville, and kind of my goal was to understand what type of setup at Hillcrest could we make them uncomfortable at, right? Like as this is like our main, like when we go play at Spey, they have such a massive advantage. They play that course every day. Their game suits that. And both of these Spey Bay members, great golfers, but I think it's pretty clear to me that we can put a lot of work in around the greens. I think the turf is really our advantage. Just a lot of uncomfy shots set up. So I think like, the four of us should just maybe start a committee and we can just start setting that course up for the 2026 Ryder Cup event so that we can make sure that it falls in our favor. But I agree. Match play to me is the most fun way to play golf, and it is really fun on trips too because when you go on a trip, especially a bigger trip, you're like kind of with everyone else, but you're always wanting this sort of alone time, like, hey, I want to catch up with you, what's going on in your life or whatever. Match play is great for that because you kind of like get those moments, but then you still get the moments. Then you get to rotate through. So I'll put in a second vote for more match play events. Love it.
Love it. So what else do you have going on in your golfing life this year, Fez?
This year, I've got 3 trips to Spey planned. Unfortunately, I'm actually going to miss that Olympia Fields signature event because while the rest of LinksDAO is in my backyard, I will actually be at Spey Bay playing. Yeah, it's hard to be mad about going to Scotland and playing golf, but the timing, I mean, we could have just pushed it a week either direction. That would have been so much nicer for me. But no, um, I'll have to see if I can get on with uh, uh, Links DAO play or something. Reach out some other time. But so I've got three trips to Spey Bay planned. I've got one in May. I'm going to the summer solstice event, and then I've got one tentatively planned in September. If and got that. I've got we're hoping to do a trip down to Cancun kind of towards the end of the year, down to Mayakoba, which I love. I know not everybody in the community feels that way, but I tend to like that place quite a bit. My experience has been very different than others, though. I will admit that. I've never had a round over 4 hours there, which is apparently not the norm. But so those are the kind of the 4 big trips. But honestly, this year I think I'm just gonna try to play more after work instead of waiting till the weekend to play 18. I think I'm just gonna try to play 9 or do something on if it's a nice day on a Tuesday, why not go out and play 6 or a par 3 course or something. I'm just really want to play more this year. I didn't get enough. I posted I think 21, 22 rounds last year. I want to double that. I'd love to just play more golf.
To that end, I need, I think, I don't know, a testimonial letter of recommendation from you and maybe RW Dennis for, 3 trips to Scotland and a Mexico trip for my fiance. I think that's however you're pulling that off is a fantastic, fantastic move. I've got 2 Spade Bay trips. I'm like, I don't think I can do a third, but more power to you, man. That's great.
Yeah. Well, one of them, she is coming along with me. I sold her on the dolphin viewing. Um, so I sincerely hope there's going to be some dolphins to see there, because if not, I'm going to be in some trouble.
The Dolphin Center. It's right there. That's awesome.
Right, right. Yeah. So that helps a little bit if you can get your partner to play even better. Mine has absolutely no interest in playing,
Hmm.
but it
Yeah.
yeah,
Castles, Dolphins, Scotland has it all.
exactly. That's what I said.
There you go.
We'll get a second home in Scotland. Why not? And then a third one in Kansas City.
Sure. Just globe trotting all over the place. Well, great. Well, Fez, thank you so much for joining us for this conversation. And I know you're busy and you always have stuff going on, but really appreciate you jumping on and investing some of the time so other members could hear kind of your stories and experience traveling out there. I think there's always a lot of questions of like, what does it actually look on the ground? And when people just hear me, Coop, and Chris talking about it, it's sort of like, all right, like what does that actually mean for me? But appreciate you providing your perspective here. And Cooper, Chris, as always, thanks for taking your time as well. Appreciate you joining. And to all the listeners / viewers, appreciate y'all's time as well. Thanks for jumping in, listening. And if you have any questions, you can always jump into Discord or drop a comment. If you're not subscribing, go ahead and subscribe. That helps us out a lot. And we're looking forward to continuing to put out a lot more content about Hillcrest, so you can sort of see the development and the journey as we shoot towards opening up in spring of 2026. So appreciate everybody, and we'll talk to you all soon. See you later.